Today I'll be doing simultaneous equations, one being linear and the other being a quadratic. Now let's get into it. So here we have a quadratic form, 4xy. So the x times y, it's no longer linear because linear you have to have the x stand alone and the y stand alone with only numbers being the coefficient. But here we have a product, so we consider this to be a quadratic form. So we have 4xy plus 5 equals 0. So this is considered to be the quadratic equation. So once we have a product of variables or a variable with a power 2, it's considered to be quadratic. The linear now, as you can see, we have 3y plus x equal 1. So we're going to assign one of the equations to be equation 1 and another one to be equation 2. You can assign in whichever order, but my decision is to call the first equation, which is the quadratic, 4xy plus 5 equals 0. This will be my equation 1. And the second equation will be my equation 2. So we're going to use substitution method in order to solve this simultaneous equation. We're going to look at the linear equation to make x or y the subject. So let's get into it. Now the linear one is the one that we always look at to make x or y being the subject. So as you can see, I have equation 2 and I'm making x a subject. So I carry the 3y over the equal sign. So it becomes minus 3y. So this 1 minus 3y, we're going to replace x in the first equation by. So in the first equation, where I'm seeing x beside the 4, I'm replacing it with 1 minus 3y. Then I rewrite the y plus 5 equal 0. Now we're going to expand. Some persons are comfortable enough to multiply the 4 and the y once, while others like to start with multiplying the 4 first. So I'm going to do so. So you say 4 times 1, that gives you 4. 4 times minus 3y, that gives us minus 12y. Now we still have the y outside the bracket that we need to multiply. So my next step is to now multiply the y. Now remember, you could have just multiplied the 4 and the y together. Now 4 times y, that gives us 4y. 4 times minus 12y gives us minus 12y squared. Then we have plus 5 equal 0. Now I'm just going to rearrange. So we have the minus 12y squared first, then positive 4y. I know it's positive because we're not seeing a negative sign in front of the 4y, plus 5 equals 0. Now we have to use the AC method. So minus 12 times 5, that gives us negative 60. And then the center, the coefficient of y is 4. So we need two numbers that multiply to give us negative 60 and add to give us 4. And you should by now watch my videos on quadratic to say, okay, the factors are positive 10 and negative 6. So it means replacing the 4y with plus 10y and minus 6y, then we have plus 5 equal 0. Now after replacing the center with the two factors, we're going to group. So we are going to have the first two sets of variables, minus 12y squared and plus 10y in bracket, and then the second set minus 6y and 5, we'll have this in another bracket. So in the first bracket, we look at what can we factor out of the first bracket. So we can factor out the negative sign. 12 and 10, what's the highest common factor here? It's 2. And the variable y squared and y, we can factor out the variable y. So what are we left with? Minus 12y squared when you divide it by minus 2y, we're left with 6y. We also can divide, so just showing you properly, divide it by minus 2y. So I've done the video before where you divide it, so that cancels to give you 6y. So if I divide also the 10y by minus 2y, 10 divided by negative 2, that will give us negative 5, and then the y's would cancel. So as again, this video showing in more details on factorizing quadratic. Now we factor out the negative 1 because that's the only thing we can factor out, and the sign is going to change within the bracket. So we have 6y minus 5 equals 0. Now as you can see, both brackets are the same, so we can group the outer end. So we have 2 minus 2y minus 1, and we have 6y minus 5, we write it once. Now it's equals 0 because we're solving, we're trying to find out the values of y, and it's more than one values in this case. So we carry the negative 1 over the equal sign, as I have a positive 1. Then divide both sides by negative 2. So our answer is negative a half. Same case over the next side, carry the negative 5 over the equal sign. So we have positive 5. Divide both sides by 6. So our answer over this side will be 5 over 6. So we have two values for y, negative a half and 5 over 6. That means we're going to have two values for x. In order to find out what is x, we are going to substitute into the equation 3, x equal 1 minus 3y. So replacing y with the first value, negative a half, we will be finding the first value for x. So replacing y with negative a half, so we are going to multiply negative 3 times negative a half. Some persons like to work with decimals. I'm going to work with fractions, so it's going to be positive 3 over 2, and others will have 1.5. Now adding this, I'm using fraction. This would be 5 over 2, while others will get 2.5, still the value of x. So it means the first set of solution is 5 over 2 and negative a half, or some persons will have 2.5 and negative 0.5. The same case is going to happen to find out the next x value. We're going to use the same equation, and we're going to replace y with 5 over 6. Now just to note, we don't have to use equation 3 to get the x value. We could have used equation 1 or equation 2. Now replacing the y with 5 over 6, we are going to work with fractions. So we're not going to use decimals. So replacing it, we have minus 3 times 5, that's minus 15 over 6. So finding out the value of x, I can work with fraction or decimal. My answer, 1 minus 15 over 6, that will be negative 9 over 6. And this can be reduced, so my answer is negative 3 over 2. So it means my next set of solution is negative 3 over 2 and 5 over 6. And that's it. We have two sets of answers for this simultaneous equation. Now the next example that we have here, we have one linear and one quadratic where we have square being visible. So once we're not seeing x standing alone with no power and y standing alone with no power, once we're not seeing that, then we can consider this to be a quadratic equation. So equation 2, 4x squared plus y squared equals 5 is considered to be the quadratic form, while 2x plus y equals 1 is a linear form. So I'm going to assign the first equation to be equation 1. So I'm going to write 1. So that's equation 1. The second equation, equation 2. So we have the number 2 to signify this is equation 2. Now we look at the linear format to make x or y the subject. In this case, I'm going to make y the subject. So we carry the 2x over the equals sign. So we have 1 minus 2x. Now by right, you could have made x a subject, but just because y is easier to make the subject because it doesn't have a coefficient greater than 1. So I'm going to assign this now to be equation 3, and since I'm using substitution method, I am going to substitute y to be 1 minus 2x. So rewriting equation 2, and if you realize, we're always substituting the linear into the quadratic. So y being replaced with 1 minus 2x, it becomes 1 minus 2x all square. Equal 5. Now we're going to expand the 1 minus 2x all square. Remember, when we have all square, it means we repeat the bracket twice. So we have 1 minus 2x multiplied by 1 minus 2x. So we're expanding the bracket, and again, I have a video on how to expand in more details. So please view that video. Now we're going to expand. So we have, first let me write the 4x squared. So we have the 4x squared right here. Now multiplying, we see 1 in the first bracket multiplied by 1 in the second bracket gives us 1. And multiply 1 by negative 2x. So that will give us minus 2x. Minus 2x times 1, that gives us negative 2x. Minus 2x times minus 2x, that gives us positive 4x squared. Close the bracket, equal 5. Now simplifying within the square bracket that I have, so let's rewrite the 4x squared. In the square bracket, the minus 2x and the minus 2x, we can add it. But if you realize you have a positive sign, so the positive sign will not affect anything. So we just have the plus 1, then minus 4x, and plus 4x squared. And then we have equal 5. Now the 4x squared and the 4x squared can be added to give us 8x squared. Again, I have an algebra video if you're still not understanding how to do this. The minus 4x right next, then have plus 1, then carry the positive 5 over the equal sign, so we have minus 5 equal 0. Now simplifying further, we have 8x squared minus 4x and then 1 minus 5, that's negative 4. Now this equation can be simplified further, where I can divide it by 4, reducing it. And we're dividing the entire equation. So 8x squared divided by 4, that gives us 2x squared, minus 4x divided by 4, that gives us negative x. And minus 4 divided by 4 gives us negative 1, and 0 divided by 4 gives us 0. Now we can use the AC method, two numbers that multiply to give us negative 2 and add to give us a center, which is negative 1. Just stick a pin, we get negative 2 by multiplying 2 times negative 1, that gives us negative 2. Now the two factors are negative 2 and 1, so the factors we're going to substitute in the center, so we have minus 2x and plus x minus 1 equals 0. Remember guys, I have videos on factorization, so you can go and look at that. Grouping, so we have two groups. In the first group, we can factor out 2 and the variable x. So what is left within the bracket? We divide 2x squared by 2x, we're left with x. Minus 2x divided by 2x gives us negative 1. And the next step is what can be factored out of the first bracket is just 1, positive 1. So we're left with x minus 1 equals 0. Now, grouping the outer end, we have 2x plus 1. Remember, we're solving, so I'm just going to have the equal 0. And 2x minus 1 equal 0. Making x be by itself, so we carry the 1 over the equal sign. So we have negative 1. Then divide both sides by 2, so the answer is negative a half. Now we're going to do the same step over this side, carry the negative 1 over the equal sign, so we have 1. Now we're going to look at equation 3 to find out what is the y value. Now please note that we could use any equation. So we're going to substitute x in equation 3. So let me just divide this page. So replacing x to be negative a half first. So what we're going to have is y is equal to 1 minus 2 times negative 1 over 2. Minus 2 times negative a half, that will cancel the 2, so negative and negative positive. So what we have is y is equal to 1 plus 1. So it means my y value is 2. So the first set of solution is x is negative a half and y is 2. Now let us look at the next part where x is equal to 1. Replace x to be 1. So we have 1 minus 2 times 1. So y is equal to 1 minus 2 times 1, that's 2. So 1 minus 2, that's negative 1. So the next set of solution is x is 1 and y is negative 1. And that's it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my video.